Have you ever indulged in something that you knew was not good for you or would hurt somebody else? I mean, like just a little bit too much of that decadent chocolate or mac and cheese or beer. Or you were going to stop smoking marijuana, but you just had to keep indulging. Hi, my name is Akila Karanja, and welcome once again to the Emancipated Gospel, an African American struggle for spiritual liberty. This is a study, and if you have not already, please subscribe to our channel. Share this, and if you like it, like it. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, indulgent means to be willing to allow excessive leniency, generosity, or consideration, indulging or characterized by indulgence, done or enjoyed as a special treat or pleasure. Indulgent desserts are an example of indulgence. Now, when we think about being indulgent, we might think about leniency or being gracious with our children. But have you ever thought that indulgence could destroy you? The word indulgent has Latin roots, and it actually means to be kind, tender, fond. And when we think about all of these things, we think about love. But when it's talking about the self, to give oneself up to be addicted, indulgent, allowing oneself to have free reign, or allowing oneself not to be reined in, indulgent. Is God indulgent? So indulgence is the practice of leniency, fondness, and kindness toward someone who has broken law. It is grace, a type of grace, not God's grace, but the grace of the indulgence. The concept of indulgence allows for penitence for sin. Penitence means the giving of something or the payment of something for forgiveness of sins. That's actually what indulgence means, the origin of the word indulgence, and it comes from a Christian or the church term. So when we look at indulgence, it has to do with allowing oneself to do what one wants to do, i.e., sin against the self and others in order to gratify self, but not just that. To be given license to do so by an authority other than God. That was the sale of indulgence that was practiced in the 1500s, even further back. And that practice of indulgence or selling indulgence induced people into war and induced the Portuguese into trading Africans through the slave trade. Indulgences require the thought that righteousness comes through the law, meaning there must be a payment for sinfulness or for wrongdoing. So righteousness comes through law. But we learn in the book of Galatians that if righteousness were by the law, then someone or everyone could keep the law because God is love and he's gracious and he would not destroy us for not keeping a law that we could not keep. But Galatians asserts that righteousness comes through belief or faith in the Savior. So now we're looking at two different paradigms in understanding God's law. According to Online Etymology Dictionary, indulgence comes from the mid-14th century, and in the church sense, it is a freeing from temporal punishment for sin, remission from punishment for sin that remains due after absolution. So is this something that God does? Absolves us from punishment for sin when we indulge in sin? No, God forbid that. Who is it? What is this concept, and what drove this system of indulgence? In a prior message, we talked about the beginning of the slave trade, showing that the first slaves were taken from the coast of West Africa in 1441. We learned that 10 years later, 11 years later, Pope Nicholas V issued Dum Diversas, which was a papal bull or a papal letter authorizing the Portuguese to reduce non-Christians to the status of slaves. Now, the reduction of these non-Christians to the status of slaves came about through the system of indulgence. And this is the writing, this is how it was worded. We grant to you full and free power. We are indulging you through the apostolic authority by this edict to invade, conquer, fight, and subjugate. Question, is God indulgent? And who gave man authority to induce men to sin? So let's explore this system of indulgence and the implications of indulgences. An indulgence is a concept which says that a violator can be freed from the sins of violation or the active violation of another one's rights. But it became reduced to a letter or a commodity, an indulgence or a letter which could be bought or sold, saying that when one holds such indulgence, they are free to violate and be absolved of the guilt of such violation. On October 31, 1517, Martin Luther nailed a document, the Disputation on the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences, also known as the 95 Theses, to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church. He believed that salvation was a gift of God by grace and vigorously opposed the church's practice of selling indulgences. The indulgence promised salvation for the purchaser and his or her dead relatives. The concept of earning salvation through works had been asserted about 5 centuries before this time to encourage warriors to fight in the Crusades on African soil. This is the same type of indulgence that Pope Nicholas V offered and insisted that the Portuguese accept in absolution of their sins against the Muslims and the Africans and bringing them in the slave trade. It was in opposition to the mission of a German Dominican monk named John Tetzel that Luther posted his 95 Theses. Tetzel sold and preached the human doctrine of indulgences in Germany to lavishly repair St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Tetzel would put up a big red cross and a heavy iron offering receptacle next to it. He would say, "Press in now, come and buy while the market lasts. Should that cross be taken down, the market will close. Heaven will depart, and then you will begin to knock and to bewail your folly in neglecting to avail yourselves of blessings which shall then have gone beyond your reach." Indulgences are the most precious and the most noble of God's gifts. Then, pointing at the red cross, which stood full in view of the multitude, he would exclaim, "This cross has as much efficacy as the very cross of Christ. Come, and I will give you letters, all properly sealed, by which even the sins which you intend to commit may be pardoned." Wow. Imagine that. A man would preach. A system would give people license to kill, to steal, to enslave, to save their souls and the souls of their dead relatives out of hell. That is the system of indulgences. That is the system against which the Protestant reformers fought and landed in America, creating a system of religious liberty. Yet, on the heels of that, we have the slave system, which was bought, by and large, by indulgences. We have to understand what Christianity has become in the minds of people. When you look at the selling of indulgences in order to justify the sinner, you realize that you're not under the system of God who brought salvation in the first place. God is not indulgent. If God were indulgent, Jesus would not have died. Somebody's got to pay for sin, meaning that there must be an atonement for sin. This anti-Christian system, the selling of indulgences, were inducements for people to get their souls out of hell, to commit whatever sins they would ever commit or whatever sins they would ever want to commit, and to get the souls of their dead people, their dead loved ones, out of hell. This system of indulgence allows people to be addicted or do whatever they want to and hurt other people as long as they can keep from burning in hell. Is this a Christian system? Does your righteousness come by keeping the law or adhering to a certain ideology that may be called Christian but may be far from it? Or does your righteousness come through Christ, who gave his life that you may not be indulgent, that you may be a law keeper through the love of Christ? Think about it. Think about it. The Emancipated Gospel, an African American struggle for spiritual liberty. And don't forget to join us on these videos. Like us, we'll show you more. Do you want to know about being found in the gospel, the Emancipated Gospel? You got to follow us, like us, share this. The Emancipated Gospel, an African American struggle for spiritual liberty. We reveal the truth and restore the lost to the household of faith.